The Dragon Quest series has always been a prime example of how to do a JRPG right. Sadly, that's never been able to completely break through into the Western market, but with this definitive release of Dragon Quest XI's, I'm sure that's about to change things. Dragon Quest XI's is more than just a portable version of the PS4 version. It combines the 3DS and PS4 content into one, while still finding new additions to streamline the gameplay. It truly is the best Dragon Quest game to start the series with, and the best version of 11. Dragon Quest XI's has you playing as the Luminary, a young boy from the village of Cobblestone, only he's not an ordinary boy, he's the reincarnation of the hero that previously saved the world. Upon learning this truth on his birthday, the world and its forces react to the reawakening of the lost hero, thus setting us off on our adventure. It's once again the story of being the chosen one and having to defeat the evil forces in the world. While its setup isn't brilliant or anything new, in contrast, its characters are leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of JRPGs. Even though the protagonist is a silent one, the rest of the cast is filled with life and personality, that's including the characters not in your party. Each character had their own motivations for joining my party, and despite us all being different, they all seem to fit into this jigsaw puzzle. I was happy to help people out on their missions, and it brought genuine joy to see them succeed. This was further true when speaking to the NPCs. Depending on the village, their people, culture, and way of life all varied. The village I'm from mimics the feeling of an old European town, while the town of Hoto is based more on Japanese culture during the Meiji period. The evolving world and the people in it made it feel like I was traversing way more than just a small valley between each town. It instead felt like I was going from one country to another, and thus the people in each of them varied vastly, and that kept me interested in their stories. Strangely, this story is very linear, but it never felt linear. You can thank the ever-evolving side stories and characters for that. Despite some of these secondary stories being optional, they never really felt like padding to the main objective, but genuine side stories rather than quest. I guess standalone DLC would probably be the best way for me to describe them. Regardless, I think I've made my point on how fleshed out and expanded the Dragon Quest world is. Dragon Quest XI's will have you going on a lengthy 50 to 80 hour adventure, and that's if you don't get sucked into everything there is to experience, keeping you there for way longer. Dragon Quest is as JRPG as it gets. When you boil it down, you're exploring a large interconnected world, bringing along fellow misfits to aid you on your quest, while helping them on their own. You're forming strong bonds in the process. At the end of the day, isn't that what life is all about? Well, despite the formula not changing with 11S, it manages to perfect its series' bread and butter to create the strongest entry in the series today. Dragon Quest XI takes you on an adventure through the various corners of the world. Along with you is your growing party of characters that I'll avoid speaking too much about just because of spoilers, but each one is a truly unique part of your team, both in terms of abilities and personality. As mentioned before, the true bits of story comes from these characters that you meet both in your party and those you interact with. They reveal and progress the story of the world you're essentially learning about as you play. Complementing the storytelling design is the straight-up JRPG gameplay you've come to know from pretty much any game in the genre. You're going through a sandbox-connected world with a party of characters taking on enemies in turn-based battles. It's nothing new for the genre, but I never felt like it needed to be. It's classic, and I like classic in this case. Even if the world wasn't one gigantic open world, I didn't feel like there was a lack of exploration from it. Its turn-based combat, though simple, never felt like a chore to get into, and I think that's thanks to the pacing of leveling and how much depth there was to it. During combat, you have your traditional attack, abilities, magic, and defending commands. Magic is tied to your MP gauge, and some of your abilities use it too. As you defeat more enemies, you'll raise your XP or experience for each character, raising their levels, stats, and unlocking new ability points. These ability points are then reinvested into the skill trees for each character. Depending on the character, they might be better at magic or sword combat. It varies between each, and so will the skill tree. Those skills aren't solidified in stone either. If at any point you want to switch out your skills, you can completely reset the points you've earned and reselect the skills you unlock to more appropriately ready your character for a battle. I never felt like I was at a loss for combat. I either felt just ready enough to take on bosses, or the mini-boss beforehand would let me know I should probably go train a bit more, but the active training never felt like a chore either. Surprisingly, I looked forward to it. Dragon Quest XI's just feels like it has the right amount of guidance without feeling like it's looking down on me. For example, it constantly gave me the next objective to the campaign, usually highlighting it on the map or straight up telling me where to go next. It makes the progression of the story easier and fixes up the pacing so you never get too lost for too long. However, you do have the freedom of turning it off or just ignoring it to do one of the main side quests. They never felt like filler because the characters' stories were interesting and the loot rewards occasionally included some exclusive rewards that I'd otherwise never earn. It ultimately didn't feel like side content at all, just more. Those scared by the number 11 on this title shouldn't worry. Dragon Quest XI-S can be your main entry into the series, and S should definitely be the version you pick up. Dragon Quest XI was previously released on the 3DS, PS4, and PC, but XI-S on the Switch is the culmination of all three into one. The biggest change is the addition of the Japan-only 3DS 2D mode. While you can play this game in the modern 3D look, at any point you can switch between a 16-bit classic sprite mode, as if you were playing this on a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo. Both visual styles offer the same content, but they're just presented in a different look. Both have their pros and cons. For example, 2D mode moves a lot faster through the environment, combat is quick, and finding items is a lot easier. In 3D mode, things are slowed down, but are more detailed with vivid models and dynamic 3D cameras. If you truly want to get lost in this fantasy world, then I highly recommend playing in 3D, but if you just want to do some quick monster farming, then 2D is the way to go. Other quality of life improvements with this release include adding simple alterations to already established mechanics. For example, now being able to forge weapons on the go outside of the campsites you were previously forced to. Any materials needed to forge something can also instantly be bought on the spot, so long as they're available at a shop that you've already been to. There's a long list of minor improvements like this that would take a whole 15-minute video just to read the changelog. You get the point though. Dragon Quest XI-S is streamlined to the point of just making most of the changes people asked for with the original. I think it's easier to give the developers credit for adding the 3DS 2D version to the Switch, but it's the smaller changes that make the biggest impact. I think it speaks to the attention to detail that the developers had when slimming down the fat on the original package, and the fruits of their labor truly is a work of art. It's the collection of these changes, the added portability, maintenance of quality, and lastly the sum of every version that makes XI-S stand above the rest. While yes, the Nintendo Switch version doesn't always live up to the graphical fidelity of the PS4 or PC versions, I think a nice compromise was made for the best version yet. You'll run into the occasional pop-in or minor framerate dip, but Dragon Quest XI-S on Switch is more than playable. In dock mode, you'll see a resolution of 720p and 540p in handheld mode. This does mean that it's a bit blurrier than the base PS4 that ran it at 900p, and even though you can tell it's not the native Switch resolution, it's more than playable both on the go and in dock mode. Despite the resolution downgrade, none of Akira Toriyama's masterful character designs were lost here. The broad assortment of personas are fully fleshed out and maintain their attention to detail. Whether you're playing on the go or clocking in 80 hours at home, the Nintendo Switch feels like the perfect home for Dragon Quest XI. While the visuals take a hit on the Switch, Nintendo Switch surprisingly offers the best audio experience for Dragon Quest XI. Most notably, the music has been completely redone with an orchestra. You can choose to either play the previous MIDI version from PS4/PC, or play the new remaster tracks, and boy do they sound better. Even though you are free to switch between the two versions, I vastly prefer the new one. Dialogue options are also here for those that want to hear the acting in Japanese or in English. While I did prefer to hear the original Japanese cast, the English cast didn't disappoint when delivering their lines. I'd say, aside from the name changes, the English translation did an exceptional job at conveying what the original Japanese text said. If you prefer to play with English audio, you're not losing out on much of the performance details accurately representing the roles they're playing. Dragon Quest XI is without a doubt the best way to experience one of the best JRPGs of this generation. The Nintendo Switch offers a middle ground between all three previous versions, maintaining more than playable HD visuals while bringing in all the content from the 3DS to the home release. There's a reason why Dragon Quest is the series that helped put the JRPG genre on the map. It established the fundamentals of the genre, and 11 is only continuing that in the present. With the story filled to the brim with well-developed characters, a brand new music selection, and gameplay that ceases to get stale, Dragon Quest XI was a joy to replay through and through.